Magic.
Magic. That is who we are. Now, I don't know if it's telling me. Oh, we are live. G'day, everybody. How you going today? It is so good to see you. I do hope you are super well on this amazing Friday for me and Bobby. Thursday for lots of other people. Bobby, how are you in sunny Singapore?
I am doing very well, Matt. How are you?
Yes, absolutely great. My 12-year-old just ran a cross-country race, which was very exciting. I just saw that before. And wow. Otherwise, life is good. Obviously, we had a massive day with the launch of the Z5II yesterday, and you and I have both got our videos out there. There's lots of videos out there, lots to talk about when it comes to the Z5II, which we will get to, Bobby. But I wanted to, while we get the episode started, I wanted to let the viewers learn a little bit more about us and just for a few minutes talk about, while everybody settles into their chairs and, you know, opens their drinks and whatever they're doing, talk a little bit about us, you know. What is it? Who are we? What do we like? And I thought I'd start by saying I just saw the film Mickey 17. I'm a massive science fiction fan, and it's all about clones. And I have to say, I thought it was a really nicely well-made film, but there were certain parts about the plot that I found really weird, and the tone of the film was really weird. And I'd also like everybody in the comments to let us know what's a good TV show or movie that they've been watching this last week and anything they're excited about. Bobby, how about you? What have you seen, listened to, been a part of in the last week that you're excited about?
Well, you know, I was actually in Yogyakarta for my partner's birthday, so I was there for a couple of days. So I didn't watch any movies, but I did see the latest Superman, the 5-minute footage release that was just came out because of a CinemaCon in Vegas. Love it, with Crypto, the dog, pouncing on him and dragging him back to the Fortress of Solitude. Awesome. I'm actually excited for this movie. I was a little like, I wasn't sure, because I mean, obviously I was a big Superman fan, Christopher Reeve. I actually liked Man of Steel. I liked Henry Cavill as Superman, but it was a very dark. But this one is now growing on me. And you've seen Crypto in this, the way that they have him coming into play and all this stuff. And they have these robots into the Fortress of Solitude. I'm like, I'm on board with what James Gunn's doing with this. This looks really cool. So while I am a science fiction fan, I'm more in the science fiction fan in terms of that kind of thing. So, but that was one thing I saw that I was like, okay, I'm excited for this. This is going to come, what was that, 90 days or 100 days from now?
Yeah, it's not long, and we've got quite a number of big properties coming up soon for this summer tentpole season. So that's definitely one that I'm going to check out and see.
Fantastic Four as well. Just
to circle briefly back to Mickey 17, for some reason it's quite a serious science fiction film, but they had this sort of character which is played by Mark Ruffalo, who's basically. It's like it's just all comedy, and it doesn't fit with the tone of the rest of the film. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna give this film like 3 out of 5. And if you're a hardcore science fiction fan, it's worth seeing. But otherwise, I'd probably give it a pass. But Superman, I'm definitely back. I mean, there's a conversation to be had on another channel. How many times can we keep rebooting these IPs and as quickly as we do? I mean, Spider-Man's probably the worst offender, where it's just, you know, contractually they have to do it I think it's something like every 5 years, or the rights revert back to Marvel, and that's why Sony keep doing it. But geez, we got a lot of Spider-Man what was the name of the Tobey Maguire did the first one, and I feel like that was less than 20 years ago those first ones came out.
It's crazy how time flies with these things, you know. But that's the thing, is like 20 years, and then you look at the IPs, because I mean, you realize that like they want to reboot for a new generation of audiences, right?
It's true.
Superman, I think, needed. I mean, I was surprised that they did the reboot this quick on it. I thought at least to give it a few more years, but I understand they wanted to sort of, you know, get the DC 10 pulls out there, refresh them, get people excited about it again. You know, I think the Batman with Robert Pattinson, and speaking of Mickey 17, obviously the star of that, you know, I think he did a great job in the Batman. I really like that take. That's very much in line with the comics that I grew up with. So I was like, yeah, this is what I love to see. Now, obviously, will that work in the DCU universe that James Gunn's creating? With this Batman work? Probably not. It'd probably be more of an Elseworld, which is what they're kind of calling it, kind of a sub of the DCU. But I don't know, man. I'm excited to see where they're going with this, but I get it. I understand it's a lot of reboots. For us, as we're older, we see it as a lot of reboots. But for the younger generation, it's the first time they're seeing this stuff. Yeah.
Hey, so let's jump over to the camera world, and we
Yeah.
have F and CCD saying, is Nikon raising the bar of the Z5II line to make room for a new Z3 product? Well, that's an interesting way to start this conversation. Look, it's hard to say. From my perspective, I feel like this is a reasonable baseline for where full frame cameras should be in 2025. Like, some of the world expects video, so it's got great video. Some of the world expects great autofocus, it's got great autofocus. Some of the world expects great IBIS, it's got great IBIS. And of course, you can only make one camera to be that entry-level camera. And the thing that we don't see change so quickly is, of course, megapixels. And that's because, well, it wasn't that long ago that the 12 megapixel D3 and whatever else was out in Canon and every other land was the flagship. And when you think about it, 24 megapixels is actually a lot for everybody except for people who need, which is actually a smaller market. So I do wonder, and Bobby, I'd love your thoughts on this, and we have talked a little bit about it before, but I do wonder, is 24 megapixels just going to become a baseline? Now, I know that Sony are doing their own thing, and that's great. We love that Sony do their own thing. But, can we see an entry-level full-frame camera being 45 or 50 megapixels in 10 years' time? And I wonder if we just don't even need it because it's more storage, it's more everything. And it's 6K. It's already a lot of res. Over to you, Bobby.
I kind of think that we will see a different baseline in 10 years from now. I mean, obviously, if you look 10 years back, you probably said, well, 12 megapixels was the baseline then, and it's more than enough than what we need. You know what I mean? If you look at social media, you look at what you really need for social media, and even for printing for the most part, for the average person out there, 12 megapixels is enough. You know what I mean? I mean, the A7S III was 12 megapixels. The FX3 is 12 megapixels. You know what I mean? So it is enough, but consumer demand wants more. And so you have to raise the bar, and I think with anything, you will see technology and AI and everything come into play that 40, 50 megapixels will be the baseline. Will 24 stick around for probably a little bit longer? Sure. It's very cost effective for these brands to use 24 megapixels. It's still widely used. It's a good sweet spot for a lot of people out there. And I don't think we're going to see a Z3, to be frank with you. I think that thought process should go out the window. I think the Z5II is probably going to be the entry level for Nikon going forward. And I think they've done a great job, because if they do a Z3, then they're handicapping the Z5II. So why would they do that anymore? I think they've done a great job with it. But I think I would say probably a couple more years, we'll see 24 megapixels, and then it'll go to 36 will be the baseline. And probably in 10 years, we'll see 40, 50. You know what I mean? Because our computers will be faster, storage will be cheaper. Think about what we're going to be in 10 years from now. It's going to be unbelievable. So, yeah.
It's true.
That's my thoughts.
It's true. Technology keeps marching on, and that may well see it even so we maybe don't even really need it. Like, we're going to be beyond 8K TVs. Does anybody need a 12K TV, and so on? We've got grey heat coming all the way from the Caribbean. It is so exciting to know that we've got viewers all over the world, and you can tell me, is it the Caribbean or is it the Caribbean? Because we say it two different ways, don't we, Bobby?
We do.
And Grey Heat can let us know. Also, Rad has said he watches both of our videos and he's pre-ordered the Z5II. So, Bobby, we must be doing great work.
Yeah, now, we got one pre-order. We did it.
Oh, I'm guessing. I'm guessing there's more than one. With our collective views being in the thousands and thousands. Now, we want to talk about the Z5II. It's a big release. We've both used it. Neither of us have them anymore. We've had to give them back, our respective Z5IIs. I think my biggest takeaway from this camera is in real terms what a competent camera it is, how powerful it is, and how different it is from the original Z5. Like, the original Z5 was like, what's the most basic full frame camera we can make? And it's still a competent and fantastic camera, but they sort of very much focused on stills. Video was not going to say minor, but it was a small part of what the camera was capable of. It had a great sensor, it's still the same size sensor. But now we've got a camera that, to me, when I was using it, it was like, this experience feels like a Z6 III because it's got the X-Peed 7, because the focus is the same, because the IBIS is as good, if not better, and because you're getting 24 megapixels. Unless you are actually using the features that are different in the Z6 III, which is 6K video, or maybe shooting at 20 frames a second, I just really couldn't tell the difference between the two cameras. So it was amazing to me how similar it is to the Z6 III in kind of 97.8% of use cases.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is. I mean, I had a comment on one of my videos on my video of this that someone said this is Nikon's A7 III moment. And it's true. This is their A7 III. This is the culmination of the Z6 III, the Z8, the ZF put into a body. And I think they've done a phenomenal job with what they put into it for the price point. It's going to be a very hard camera to look at and go and compare it to everything else. If you're into video specs, more video than photography, then yes, you could look at the, let's say, the Lumix S5II, S5IIX and say, granted, that is more video centric. But if you're looking from a photographer standpoint and you want a decent hybrid that does both great photo and video, this camera is kind of right there with everybody right now. You know what I mean? It's taken over the conversation. Now, will this sway people to join the Nikon ecosystem? Hard to say. You know what I mean? But I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed using it. I thought I had the camera far less time than you did, but the few hours that I had it when we shot the video, because literally I got the camera, then we shot the video like 45 minutes later, and I was using it as I was shooting it. I was just blown away by how good this camera was for the price. Like it almost, I don't want to say this.
I got to say, Bobby, you were walking around in an absolute thunderstorm. Like you were in a crazy rain and obviously out there with this camera. And I was watching Ricci's video this morning, and he says it's got the same level of weather sealing as the Z6 III. Clearly it can handle the elements, which is just an unbelievable testimony to itself. I mean, talk about in real terms how crazy that weather was, because I could see it, but it was probably actually worse, because you know how hard it is to show rain on video.
Yeah, it was really hard. It was coming down very hard, very, very hard. As a matter of fact, because I don't know how it works for other markets, but here in Singapore, the Nikon reps are with you as you're shooting it. So you're not allowed to have the camera on your own. And one of them was shooting me as I was doing the video, right? And we were drenched. We were completely drenched. It was really coming down to the point where it was almost unenjoyable to shoot. But we had to get it out. There was just otherwise I'm going to sit in a cafe and talk about a camera, which is going to be boring. And I thought, why not just stress test this camera? But it held up beautifully. I'm going to say this right now. I don't know, Matt, who's going to pick up a Z6 III after this, to be frank with you.
Yeah, well, it's seriously people who want that.
I mean, why
20 FPS in RAW.
Why would you get a Z6 III? Why would you get a Z6 III after this? I mean,
yeah, it's only the 20 frames per second in RAW and the 6K video, and then there was one other thing I just thought of and probably forgot. But no, there's not a lot of reasons. There really isn't a lot of reasons, and that's why it's such an amazing camera. Now, we've got a question from Roger, which I thought I'd throw in here at this point. Is it just me, or is the pricing range between the Z5II and the ZF and the Z6 III pretty narrow? Seems the new kid on the block could eat into their siblings' sales. Absolutely, Roger. And in Steve Jobs' famous words, he said, who better than to cannibalize our product line than ourselves? And look, the thing I always find about new product releases is people are often comparing them with the current street price. And the current street price is often 10, 15, 20% lower than what the price was when it launched. I look forward to having this conversation again when the Z5II, coming up to the gift giving season at the end of the year, is going to be significantly cheaper, because that's just what always happens with electronics. And then I think we'll see that it makes sense. I mean, people buy the ZF because they want retro, right? And so to me, that's kind of sits in its own category. And then there'll be a clear delineation in pricing between them. Bobby, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it's It's very close right now, but the pricing will change. Obviously, the Z6 III, when it came out, was priced a bit too high for a lot of people, but then Nikon adjusted to that. Or they get promotions and they work out certain rebates and things like that. They have their ways of going around that. But yeah, this is going to be a really... See, this is the tough part when you're doing 24 megapixels with so many cameras, right? There is going to be this overlap. And this will be... I think it's going to be very hard. I mean, it's going to be very hard for a lot of people to justify spending more on the Z6 III. Yes, you get the better EVF. It's brighter. It's extremely bright. Yes, you get the, I think, CF Express Type B card and a UHS-2, right? And you get a 6K. But if you're shooting, if you don't need 6K and you don't, and the EVF already on the Z5II is really good as it is, it's the same quality as you're getting on like a Z8, Z9, respectively. You know what I mean? Why would you jump? You know what I mean? Why would you spend a bit more? I don't know. I really... using the camera, I was just like, okay. I mean, I'm on board with it. It's great. It's going to be great for sales for Nikon, but it's going to be a very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. To be frank with you,
I think this shows the speed.
Yeah.
Sorry, say that again.
No, one camera is going to have to fall. I think in this trifecta here. Not all three can be winners. One's going to probably take a hit, and I have a feeling. I think I know which one it's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's interesting to me because I would love to know the numbers, Bobby, on what percentage of cameras sell in the first 6 months, let alone the first 1 month after release. And I would probably estimate that in everything other than the entry level, like, so you talk Z9, Z8, Z6 III, 75%, maybe more, gets sold in the first 6 months of their entire life cycle. And it's only entry-level cameras that sell in large quantities sort of for a long time, if that makes any sense. Now, of course, I'm completely making those numbers up. But if you think about the people that wanted Z8 and Z9, I bet they were absolutely, like all of us, it's like, it's here, I've got to buy it straight away. And really, we would have bought it quicker if they could get it to us quicker. You know, the problem was supply rather than desire. So... it's possible that 70-80% of Nikon's Z6 III sales have already happened, is what I'm saying. And so now bringing this camera in doesn't really impact it.
Sure.
And I reckon the ZF fits in its own category because it's retro. So people will just walk into the store and go, "I love it! I've got to have it! And can I get it in sunset orange?" Because everybody knows that's the best color. Only joking. And anyway. I haven't had a chance to say thank you, everybody, for being here. It's so wonderful that you're all here. We've got people from all over the world. Welcome to Costa, Z-Wade, Rad, John, Vahography. We've got Grey Heat. We've got Too Bad. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Please make sure you give us a like on the stream because that is really good for the stream. And please, any questions about anything, we do have another QQQ from Z-Wade, but any question about anything, please let us know in the comments below. We will just jump off Z5II for a second and talk about this very important question to do with tea. Z-Wade asks, Matt, what kind of tea? That tea looks delicious, so I'm going to have some. Look, this is nothing special. This is just Twinings, which I think is probably a global concern, and this is English breakfast. Melbourne, where I'm from, is known for its coffee, right? I have to make an admission. I don't drink coffee. So if we're ever going to have a coffee fund, Bobby, I know, Bobby. If we're ever going to have a coffee fund, it'll be a coffee and tea fund. It'll be the C&T fund. Bobby, I can see you're in complete shock. What's your favorite coffee?
I don't have a brand per se. I just okay.
No, I mean like a short black, a long black, a piccolo,
Espresso, double espresso. Strong, to the point. Don't want to be, don't want to sit there and just drink too long. Yeah, I know. We're the complete opposites on this. Yeah.
That's how you can walk in the room with the Kramer hair, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's why the hair is always up. It's due to coffee. No,
I was going to have my Kramer hair today, and I calmed it down for everybody because I thought people would get freaked out by my big hair. We've got Dr. Robert in from Perth. Welcome, Dr. Robert. It's fantastic to have you here. Please let us know any QQQs. Yeah, so back to the Z5II. I do think it's a very interesting and exciting camera. I think the fact that it's at this entry level and Nikon have absolutely packed it with features. I do think it's got a bright future. I do agree that of course, it's got to impact the other 24 megapixel cameras in the range. So be it. As Steve Jobs said, let's cannibalize ourselves. Absolutely fantastic. It's one way to go.
But you know what this does make it? You know what this does make an argument that the Z6 III could have 36 megapixels or 32 megapixels. It would have been a more differentiating factor now, seeing the Z5II, if the Z6 III was at least 32, like the A7 IV, for example, from Sony, right? So then when you bring the 24 megapixel kind of the all-encompassing sort of budget, I say budget in terms of price, but not in terms of performance, okay? Then it makes more sense of differentiating the two. But now that you have 3 cameras, the ZF we take out of it, let's just call it 2 cameras, because the ZF, as you mentioned, is in its own kind of category, kind of retro styled and so forth. But the Z5II and the Z6 III, now it makes it more challenging for people. But yeah, they'll probably cannibalize themselves, but it sells. And this is a way to bring people into the Nikon market, I think, in a very, very good way. Hats off to Nikon for doing this. I was really pleasantly surprised.
Now, Vahography is saying you get 4K 60 when you go the Z6 III, but you do get 4K 60 on the Z5II. Yep. It is with a crop, yes, but you still get it.
Yes.
And to be honest, when I'm out shooting with these cameras, often slow-mo is about things that are a long way away. Like it's usually, anybody that you need to get in slow-mo, if they're close to you, the shot's over in a second. So slow-mo tends to be things at a distance, right, Bobby? Would you agree? And thus that extra reach that you get from going into DX never seems to be a problem. And if you own a couple of lenses, okay, you're at 24 mil and you want to still be at 24 mil, then you throw on your 16 mil and then your DX crop is 24 mil again. You're all right. Everything's perfect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too worried about these crop factors when you get into the 4K 60. Look, the S5II has a crop at 4K 60 as well, and everybody uses that camera and loves it. So it's not a big deal, at least in my opinion. It's usually a minimal crop factor. If that, take a couple steps back and you're golden. So I mean, we're just kind of splitting hairs. But I mean, Vahography makes some points here on the Z6 III. You get the Type B card slot. You get the bigger HDMI port. Yeah, there are benefits to the Z6 III, but it's going to be more discerning now, I think. For the average user, the Z5II has everything that they want in a camera that the Z6 III was first offering, but now it's going to be, you know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the marketplace. I'm just very happy what Nikon's done with this thing. They've done a great job.
Yeah. No, we are all very happy campers about where this is going, and I think it's shipping later this month, so
it's coming quick.
Maybe get your orders in earlier if you're excited to have one. I think it's going to sell really, really well. It's going to be big, and I hope they made thousands of them for their sake. Yep. Now, Bobby, I thought we would next touch on a little bit of a rumor that's now circulating in the internet. I tell you, do you think the internet would exist if it wasn't for rumors? I don't think it would. And that is the Sigma 200, f1.8, f2, are they going to do something magical yet again? Sigma, like the 300 to 800, which was basically half the size of a car. Beautiful lens. You actually used it. How good is that?
The 300, 600, yeah.
What do you think? Is Sigma going to be able to bring something new to the table in a 1.8, or is that just asking too much?
I have a feeling this is an incorrect rumor, at least on... I mean, a 200 f2 makes more sense. Think about it. The last time we saw a 200 f2, both were from the EF mount and the F mount, respectively, right? We never seen it on a mirrorless mount thus far. A 1.8 200 millimeter prime lens would be massive. And, I don't know. I think everybody's trying to go smaller, except for Sigma and the 300 to 600. That's a different story. But I would say that based on, just if you look at the logic aspect of it, I think F2 would be the more, if this is a true rumor, of course, that F2 would make more sense than 1.8. Sometimes these rumors, they come out, they are incorrect and they get corrected within 24 to 48 hours. So, I mean, this one just kind of came out yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, this 200 f1.8 rumor. I have a feeling it will be corrected very soon.
No worries.
It's going to be true. Yeah.
Now, Roger Manning has asked, to keep the discussion going, what firmware additions do you anticipate Nikon might give the Z6 III to further distance it from the Z5II? Roger, that's a really interesting question, and I have to say I'm not even sure what features we might get in general to beyond how capable these cameras already are. I know that there's some people that want to see the Z6 III with bird detect, and I've talked to, I mean, the thing is, it does have bird detect. It's just part of the overall animal detect, so it is there. And it'd be really interesting to understand in genuine, real millisecond terms, what's the difference between choosing animal versus bird and the camera actually finding the bird. And it's possible. It's possible there's actually no difference in time of acquisition, right? And I don't know, but there probably is. I don't know if anybody's tested it out there. There's so many channels for photography these days. So please point us in the direction if somebody has tested that. You know, do you know what I'm saying there, Bobby? That idea?
Yeah, no. I when I was testing the A1 Mark II, I remember reading the spec sheet that they said when you put it to all subject detection, there is a delay from how it can differentiate from different subjects versus having it look for one specific subject. Now, if Sony has some sort of delay, I'm not to say that, I'm guessing Nikon probably has that as well. You know, because think about the algorithm and how it has to, you know, differentiate all the different subjects the camera is seeing. It's not a human. It's using, you know, algorithms and AI and whatever technology that it's using. It probably will be a bit of a delay. I would expect to see the Z6 III with bird detection. I was shocked it did not come into the Z6 III at launch. And the Z5II has it. I'm like, what? Again, it's like, huh? It's that WTF moment, like you're going, Nikon, why? You've got a $5.76 million EVF, the brightest EVF they've ever made. It's fantastic for wildlife and sports photography, but you sort of condensed all the subject detection in a couple settings versus the Z8, the Z9, and now the Z5II, where you have dedicated modes. So that would be the big
Z52 as well.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. So why are we not getting this in the Z6 III? What happened? Did the Z6 III department are they on holiday at Nikon? What happened?
I have a theory. Will you entertain my theory for 2 minutes if I can remember my theory?
Sure.
So my theory is this. If you look at the timeline of when the Z8 and the Z9 and bird detect happened, and I believe it was in firmware 2, and you look at which was the start of last year, and then the Z6 III came not that long later, like it was actually launched 4 or 5 months later. The way I think firmware is developed is there would be a core firmware running a lot of the functions, but then as you get closer to launch date, and this might be something like a year or two out, they have to branch off and start making specific firmware for that sensor and the different IBIS unit that it has and so on, because everything is not identical. And it's that branching that occurs which causes the problem. So in other words, at the time of the branch occurring in the firmware, bird detect was probably being thought about on Z8 and Z9, right? And the coders that are working on those cameras prioritized it because those cameras were already in the market and maturing. The Z6 III is still coming to market, so their goal is to finish the firmware and release the camera. And if a couple of things have to slide because of that, then they do. And then why did it come to the Z52 and the Z5II? Because they're later and the teams have had longer to deal with that issue. So in other words, the Z6 III just happened to fall in a valley of firmware development, which they're now having to catch up on after the fact. Does that make sense? Did that make any sense to you at all?
No, not at all, Matt. Because I'll tell you why. I'm having some fun with you, but I'll tell you why. Because the Z6 III or Z6 III has been in development for some time. They don't just develop these within a year. It's a few years.
Totally.
And Nikon knows what they're doing in terms of their product lineup, more so than we do as consumers. And the thing about it is, even if the technology wasn't ready at the time of launch, the camera's been out for how many months now?
Which one?
The Z6 III. How many months?
9, maybe?
9 months. So, okay, 9 months. 9 months from the time of launch, they can't put bird detect into a camera system, but yet they can put onto the Z52 and the Z5II at launch.
So, just to reiterate what I'm trying to say is the firmware development team overall is bringing bird detect to XPEED 7 in general, right? And let's say that's if my brain can handle this, let's say that's the end of 2022, that's when they start. It would actually have been earlier than that, right? And at some point, the Z6 III team has to branch off and say, okay, we've got to start the unique development of the Z6 III firmware, right? So, and what I'm saying is at the time that they branched, Bird Detect was not just a standard thing in the operating systems, because they were developing it for Z8 and Z9, and when they or the Z6 III firmware branched off before they even started developing it for Z8 and Z9, because it might happen a year beforehand.
Okay, here's the thing where I would disagree with you on this. It's like using a laptop, for example, right? When Apple makes a laptop and they're developing with the M series chip, let's say M4, M4 Pro, M4 Max, respectively, it's still the same operating system on the processor, and everything is very similar, right? So you're still getting a lot of those features. It's not like you get a laptop that, oh, you're getting less features on this laptop than this laptop. They're developing it all at the same time. And the Xpeed 7 processor is the same processor. Z8, Z9, Z6 III, Z5II, it's all the same. It's a development that you're developing for all the same. It's not like you're developing a completely different camera system with a different processor. Then I would agree with you. Then I would say yes. But the fact that you're using the same processors means that for whatever reason, they're probably trying to differentiate the Z6 III from the Z8 and Z9 to not cannibalize sales. Okay, raise your hand.
Okay, I think, and I don't know this, but the Xpeed 7, just like the M4, the Apple Silicon, with all silicon you have yield rates. So essentially, a chip is called an Xpeed 7, a chip is called an M4 Apple Silicon, and then the yield rate determines essentially the number of cores that are available in that chip. Does that make sense? Are you aware of that's how we get our M4 standard, M4 Pro, M4 Max? It's actually the yield and how successful the yields are, and it gets rarer and rarer as the chips are more successful and you get more cores. Oh, and what these companies do is then they just give them a name. They went, this one was really successful. It got 80 cores from its yield, so we call this the Pro or the Max. This one only got 32, so we're calling it the standard. And thus, not all M4 chips are actually the same, even so they're all called M4. And I would guess it's the same for Xpeed 7. In other words, your very best chips end up in the cameras that are working the hardest and the fastest, and you literally don't need to put that same yield chip into a Z50 or a Z5 or a Z6 III.
But then again, Matt.
And the thing about, sorry, you go, Bobby.
No. Again, then why would you put this feature into a camera that's far less expensive, and not put it into your Z6 III? And it's coming. Well,
if you have to rewrite the code, which is what we were talking about, you've got to branch off and write specific code.
The Z6 III is not that different of a camera. It's not that different of a camera. It's the same. You're looking at the same parts. It's just a different sensor. It's the same camera.
Yes, but the Z5II has come after. And so there's two options here. Nikon will circle back when they get round to doing the next firmware update for the Z6 III, and they will now that they've developed it for the Z5II, they'll get it in there. Or everything I've just said is BS, and they're just simply planning on not doing it. So it's either one or the other option.
You got to see Z Wade's comment right here. Ding, ding, ding. In this corner, fighting out of Singapore, Bobby the Rain Dancer Tonelli. The other corner, fighting out of Melbourne, Oz, Matt the Nightscaper, Irwin.
Totally true. Anyway, it's one or the other. They've either planned not to do it, or it's simply a firmware. Because I agree with you, Bobby. Why haven't they done it? And there's no logical reason for it other than there's two options. It's a firmware thing, or they've chosen not to. And I'm just explaining the other option. It could simply be they've chosen not to.
Yeah, could be. It's interesting nonetheless. It's a great discussion point. It really is.
It is very... now, what's Mozman written here? He's written... Let me get that comment up. He has written, apparently they are struggling with the Z7II when it comes to additional functionality to the firmware.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course, different processor.
He might be responding to something else there.
Yeah, I think so too.
We were talking about the two. Oh no, we'd gotten through the 200. Now there seems to be a new lens manufacturer in town, which is, and they're called. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're called NRAW. Yes, song as in raw. NRAW.
Wow.
Chinese lens manufacturer, and it's not rumored. They are going to be putting out 50mm 1.2 lenses sometime soon, and this is for E mount and for Z mount. Now, Bobby, I'd like your reaction while I try and find a web page to support what I'm talking about.
Look, let's be honest. I mean, I think you and I know. I mean, we're working with brands from Asia, and the rate of development and the speed of development and what they're able to do for their R&D. I mean, they're coming out quick, fast, and really good optics. I mean, case in point, Viltrox is the first one. I mean, obviously with the 135 1.8. Then you got the rumor 35-1.2 coming, and then who else knows what other lenses they're coming as well. I mean, they are just coming out guns a-blazing. And I wouldn't be shocked to see this happening much more so. And sometimes these brands that we're hearing about are subsidiary brands of the manufacturers that we already know about, but they try to differentiate it just to sort of get more market share. But it's also under the same umbrella. This is kind of what some of the Asian brands do out here that I've known about, especially in the phone marketplace as well. So it wouldn't be surprised if NRAW is a sub of another brand that we know of. I mean, we'll probably find that out in due time.
So I'm here on Sunny Alpha Rumours. Although this is April 1st. I wonder if it's a... Oh, no, it says here, this is not an April Fool's joke. The new Chinese lens brand called NRAW will soon announce this new 50mm 1.2 lens. You can find the official teaser on their website. And there you have it. So
NRAW.
It's amazing to me, Bobby, how many manufacturers are now doing this, and how many of these can we possibly have in total, do you think? Chinese manufacturers. And to me, like when I very first started this channel a long time ago, I was sent some 50mm 1.2s, which were just terrible lenses. But we now live in a different, and this was from a brand that I don't think I've heard of since. So it wasn't any of the big brands that we all know, the big Chinese brands. What's it going to do if we get Viltrox putting out a lens that's amazing, and then NRAW putting out an amazing 50mm 1.2? I mean, it makes extraordinary photography accessible to everyone. That excites me, Bobby. I get excited by it.
Yeah, this is interesting, man. This is interesting. I mean, look, it's going to be the Wild West until, like anything, the top brands will reign supreme and the other ones will kind of fall short. But I wouldn't be surprised looking at the design of this NRAW lens. It kind of reminds me of Sirui a little bit. It has a little bit of that Sirui vibe to it. So I wouldn't be surprised if NRAW is part of Sirui. You never know. It could be their way of kind of differentiating it, saying, hey, look, we're going to try something new. We don't know. We really don't know. Like, for example, when I first, kind of going to Leica M mount, for example, right? There was a company called Typoch out there, Thypoch. I think you know that they make Z mount lenses too, manual focus lenses. When they first came out, now they were one of the first Asian brands that had a spot on B&H Photo right away. We're like, whoa, that's interesting. Because usually you would get like TT Artisans, Seven Artisans, and these other brands out there, but you wouldn't be seeing this kind of distribution right off the bat. And I mean, then we found out that they were a subsidiary of DZO Films that makes cinema lenses. And DZO makes some great glass at a very affordable price for a lot of filmmakers out there. But at the beginning, they didn't want to say that they were part of DZO. Now they do say it. But before, they didn't want to say it. They want to be completely separate. And then, but that made sense why there was this distribution channel right off the bat, why they were so popular, guns a-blazing. And they make great lenses, by the way. Really a big fan of their lenses. But it's one of these things, we'll probably find out that NRAW is like that as well. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. We've got a great question from VJ, and this is very topical and very global. He is asking, how do you think the tariff situation will affect pricing? Holy cow. Do you want to go first, Bobby?
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be as bad as we think. I really don't think. I have a feeling that this is all negotiation. And, some companies will have to absorb some of it. They can't just put the whole, like, say, 46% and put it onto the consumer. They won't sell anything either. So there's going to be a concession made where they're going to have to eat some of the tariff pricing. And then also there will be obviously there will probably be a bump in price. But I also think it's a negotiation process too, because to be fair, I think a lot of people looking at it from the consumer side of it as us buying cameras. And sure, that's what we're talking about here. But also from the workers in America that are been kind of shafted, and they're manufacturing, their agriculture, they're not able to ship to other countries. I can tell you in Asia, you don't see a lot of American brands out here, because they get taxed a lot. So people don't want to spend to bring them in. It's expensive to see an American product here. So you go to Asian countries, do you see American cars? No. You see other cars, but you don't see theirs. They're protecting their own interests. So I think from a geopolitical standpoint, it's good for America to do this. I understand from the consumer standpoint, it may not be optimal for some things, but I don't think we as the consumers are going to take the brunt of a 46% tariff increase. Will we probably say a 5 to 10%? Sure. But brands still need to sell. And they know that if they're going to charge 46% more next month, they're not going to sell anything. And so they have to take the brunt. There is a profit margin every brand has. Now, is it 10 times, 8 times, 5 times? There's a pretty significant profit margin. They may have to they may have to cut a little bit off, but they will still sell.
Yeah, look, I doubt their margins are in the times. I suspect they're in the 50, maybe in lenses they are, but I doubt in cameras. I do agree that I think the manufacturers will absorb as much as they can. I really doubt that any of us, and please let us know in the comments because this is quite a serious topic. I don't think any of us want to pay any more suddenly. We don't want to suddenly see a 10, 20, 30% increase in anything that we're interested in buying. So we know the camera companies are going to do everything in their power to not have that affect us at the cash register. And part of this for me is probably about time. Like if this all is sorted out in the next 6 to 12 months, then maybe it's absorbed. But if this goes on for 4 years, I very much doubt that the camera manufacturers will absorb it for 4 years.
No, I don't think it'll be for 4 years. Is it? Because let me give you an example here. I mean, I think you and I can attest because we're living outside of the US market, so we can talk about our pricing. Here in Singapore, our average camera and lens pricing is 20 to 30% more than what you see on B&H Photo for the same exact product. For example, I'll use the GFX 100RF, the new camera that just launched.
And that's taking exchange rate into account.
Yes. It's 8,000 Singapore dollars here. Okay. If you take that exact camera, B&H, ship it over here before the GST or our tax, it's 6,500 bucks Singapore dollars. Now the GST is 9%. So let's say you pay close to 7,000. It's still $1,000 more Singapore dollars, which is equivalent to about 700 USD than the normal price. So already there is a buffer that brands are putting on respectively in different markets. What you're going to see is probably having more of an evened out pricing around the world versus these big differences. And that's just Fujifilm, for example, because they can dictate the price they want in the respective markets. Now, every other brand does the same thing. Nikon does it with us in Australia. Your pricing is going to be probably more expensive than Singapore. And sometimes we're more expensive than you guys. And it's like this for every camera brand. So I would tell you guys that for those who live outside of that live in the US, thinking about the impact, it may not be as big as you think because there is a profit margin that the retailers are also putting on top of this as well. So yeah, I don't think this is going to go on for more than a few months. To be frank with you, this is just more of an evening out the playing field. Because if you look at the chart, you look at how much the tariffs are versus America. There are in some countries it's a big discrepancy. It's huge, and maybe if it's balanced out a little bit more, it wouldn't be so bad. So I don't know. Let's wait and see. Interesting times. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm pro or against. It's just looking at it from a more sort of non-biased perspective that I think everybody's kind of getting amped up and worried. But you know what? Everything in this world is negotiation. It's all about negotiation. And I think once it settles down, it might even be better for us, Matt, in the long run. We might even get better pricing because we're not in such a tough situation like other countries are.
Interesting. So do you mean that it'll even out that the tariffs that are now being engaged in on both sides of the equation will be removed, or by way of it evening out, it
Could be
doesn't
removed.
somehow affect our bottom line at
Could
the
be
register.
removed too. Could be removed. I mean, if Vietnam wants to charge 46% tariff, for example, I'm just using a number. I don't have the chart in front of me. If they say, look, we want the American consumer, we have to negotiate. If they bring it down to 20% or whatever, they bring it down to 10% or they bring it to zero, and they start doing free trade, wouldn't the world be great for free trade for everybody versus all these tariffs? Because the funny thing is they get mad at them when America does it, but it's okay for other countries to do it. And I'm not saying that I'm waving my red, white, and blue flag here, but if you look at the numbers, why can't their products come to other countries as well? Are they not as good? What do you mean? We're great to buy for Americans, but we can't sell our product?
Not. I don't want to get political, but in regards to how I believe Australia and the US have run prior to the last day or two, we've had a free trade agreement, so it's just free trade. There's no tariffs either way. So I think that's the case. Anyway, let's keep moving on because some person doesn't like our chat and they've given us a down thumb, which might be our first because we're getting too much into the weeds of finance and free trade and government, and that's all good. Although, what's Mozman written here? I can't. What's he saying here? It's yet to play out. But let's go back to our core values and our core interests here today, because that keeps us happy, and talk about photography. And we've talked about Sigma. We've talked about Song Raw. Bobby, sing a song with me. Only joking. Next, I want to talk about NRAW for Adobe. And look, that's a pretty big announcement. Adobe has just officially, and this has been on, if I recall correctly, this is actually on Nikon's website, officially the support coming for NRAW in Premiere. And that's huge because we've all had to work in DaVinci Resolve, and a lot of us don't traditionally work in DaVinci Resolve. We work in Final Cut Pro or we work in Premiere. Those three are probably the three biggest editing software companies in the world. And the fact that we've now gone from having a 33% to 66% of that market now having access to NRAW. This is a big change. Now, it's being telegraphed pretty early because they're saying it's going to happen at the end of the year. But this certainly says big things to me about just a further step up in what the acceptance of Nikon's cameras as filmmaking cameras and having this wide acceptance. And, hey, Apple, if you're listening, can you please bring it to Final Cut Pro? That's what I want to see. Hey, baby, come on, Final Cut Pro, you can do it. What is it, a $3 trillion market cap? If anybody can do it, you can do it. We want NRAW in Final Cut Pro. I'm not going to be nice about this anymore. I'm very excited about that, Bobby.
I'm with you on that. The Apple needs to put it in Final Cut Pro. I mean, it's really challenging. We got to have these codecs in the side. Yeah.
The other thing they need to do is support Tico RAW as well. So they support Nikon's uncompressed RAW, but they don't support the HE and HE Star. So again, please, Nikon, Apple, get together, have a nice lunch, and press the button you need to press. We need this to happen because. Quickly in the comments, can people let us know how many people use HE Star if they're using one of the Nikon RAW compression algorithms? Just a quick poll. I know we can do polls here, but Bobby, do you know how to set up a live poll? Or maybe we do that on the community chat. Doesn't matter. You can just comment. I'll try and work it out while you're talking, Bobby. But yeah, who uses uncompressed RAW? Who uses HE Star? And who uses HE? I'd love to know because I'd love Apple to support that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. But there's so many different RAW formats out there. I mean, hopefully that Apple does do this with more camera companies. They need to support all of them because it is quite frustrating at times. But, it is what it is, unfortunately. I think it's good to see Adobe doing this, but hopefully we get more support from Apple in the long run for this. But, but again, it's to the camera companies, stop changing your formats too. Kind of keep it at one and keep it there. They keep adding new formats and it's, it does become very convoluted. How many formats do we have for every specific camera brand? It's quite, C-RAW and RAW and this and that, it's a bit much.
And each camera's RAW is specific, of course. So every time we get a new camera, it's not just a matter of having support for their RAW, but it's having support for the RAW of that camera. and that's why it's such a massive deal. But you know, the Z9, it came out in 2021. Apple's had nearing 4 years to sort this out. Naughty Apple. No, I'm joking. I love you, Apple. You know I'm an Apple guy through and through. I have probably spent $250,000 on Apple products in the last 30 years. So, come on.
Wow. That's a lot.
Well,
That's a lot.
I used to have a lot. I used to have a lot of staff, Bobby. So I used to buy a lot of iMacs. I bought all of the towers, and those towers used to be 10 grand each. You know, 10 grand each.
Jeez,
Do you remember
man.
when the tower? You maybe weren't buying Macs back in the late 80s and early 90s, but it was 10 in Australia. It was $10,000 or $12,000 for those Power Mac. What the hell were they? The Motorola. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, but you know, a laptop here. So the good laptop here is 6-7 grand, and the Mac Ultra, which I have on my desk and edit everything, and it is astonishingly fast. It's just the M2. That's about 6 or 7 grand here, just the base model. So very different to the US pricing. Like it's kind of double the US pricing. Just to circle back to what we were talking about before.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It'll work itself out. Yeah, but let's see. Z-Way says, I want my own RAW format. Z-RAW, then they can stop. Gotcha, Z-Way.
That's awesome. Let me throw that up. Where has that come up?
But you know what? He just came up there. But you know, going back to this whole song RAW thing, just circling back for a second. Someone said that they saw where it's registered and it's in the same province as C-Rays. So, yeah, never know.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mosman, for doing such awesome and fast research. And Bobby, very, very well spotted in seeing that aesthetic. And I think I've been to Guangdong. I think that's where one of my books was printed, and I actually went on a journey. I said to them, hey, I want to come and see where the books are printed. I want to check out the presses. I flew to Hong Kong. Then they came and picked me up in a bus, and we drove for 5 hours, and then I went to this factory, and I'm pretty sure it was Guangdong province. It's a very big place. There are lots of factories. There's probably a lot of products that come out of that part of the world. But now, Bobby, also on the rumor mill, but of course, like all of these things, there's conversation about the Canon R7 II. And of course, it's coming because, you know, Canon is a company that's in business and they're going to want to keep the wheels of commerce turning. And how do they up the ante on probably what is most popular APS-C camera that's, you know, entry level, well priced, but it's high speed. And I'm just trying to look at my notes here, but the rumor is saying Q3, Q4, 40 megapixel APS-C, but high speed. I'm a little bit scared. I'm a little bit scared about the idea of having 40 megapixels in. And the interesting thing about Canon's APS-C is it's even smaller. Their crop factor is 1.6, not 1.5. So they have an even less area than Sony, Fuji, and Nikon with their APS-C, which means they're squeezing those 40 megapixels into it's just slightly smaller, but it is just a little bit smaller. Amazing. I mean, 40, how much 40, do we need or want in an APS-C sort of wildlife entry-level camera? What do we need there? People, let us know in the comments, by the way. And if you have any questions about this, please give us the QQQs, give us the likes. And thank you very much. Bobby, what do you think?
My take on this is because I've used the XH2 in the X-T5 from Fujifilm, the 40 megapixel sensor. Now, I don't know if they'll be using the same sensor or not. I don't know, or if Canon's making their own. I know they do make their own full frame, but will they be using, for this? Not sure. I would say that I was pleasantly surprised by the noise, the higher ISO performance in the XH2, the image quality. I mean, with the right lenses, you do see a difference. Now, with the X100VI at 40 megapixels, because the lens wasn't really, we feel at least, again, I don't know, I'm not an engineer, the lens wasn't optimized for the 40 megapixel sensor. It's the same that was on the X100V, that you're not seeing that big impressive jump in terms of image quality that people were hoping for. But I think when you, like say the X-T5, the XH2 respectively, and you put a really good glass on that sensor, it's a really nice sensor. At 40 megapixels, I'm definitely on board with that. And if they can do that, that would bring a lot of people, especially for a wildlife photography, APS-C, you got further reach with the full frame lenses. And then even if you want to crop a little bit more, you've got more with 40 megapixels. I think this is a big win for them if they do it. It's a big win.
Well, there you go. Yeah, look, if they can pull it off technologically, we'll see. There's also talk of the fact that it'll be an electronic-only shutter. So having a 40 megapixel sensor, electronic only, that small, I feel power, I feel heat, I feel maybe the rumors may be a bit too far out. Yeah, that to me is a confluence of a lot of difficult technology to bring a mechanical shutterless camera at 40 megapixels. Yes, but look, I haven't shot. Oh no, I did shoot with the X-T5, but I probably didn't shoot it at really high ISOs to get a sense of. But you felt it worked fine at high ISOs. The X-T5.
We were very impressed. I mean, we shot it for the launch. We had this prior to the launch, and we were doing some content for Fujifilm Singapore for this, and I walked away like, damn, this sensor is really good. Very, very nice sensor. Really good sensor. Again, you have to have the right glass that's designed to optimize the higher resolution. But once you have that, and Canon already has that in all their RF mounts anyway, they're phenomenal glass. You're going to see if they do this again, make a fully electronic shutter, probably not, but I would say 40 megapixel APS-C, I definitely think that might be the way to go. Speaking of Canon, though, man, I just want to touch base. I've been trying this new PowerShot V1.
Ooh.
I'm going to say this right now. This is the best all-round pocket camera I have used thus far. This camera is a home run. Home run.
Big call from Bobby Tonelli. Big call.
IBIS for photo. Image stabilization, electronic stabilization for video, C-Log, great video specs, very good for photography. You've got vents inside of there, so it's got heat dissipation. I've been playing with this camera for the past week. Even though it's a bit thicker, it will fit in your back pocket more than your front pocket, depending on the size of your jeans. It is a really good camera. All the subject detection that you want, all that autofocus algorithms in it. I mean, it's a micro four thirds, pretty much a micro four thirds sensor. I mean, I'm like, damn, this is a really nice camera. This is a really nice camera for the price.
Do you have it there, Bobby? Are you able to show it to us?
No, it's in my bag. It's in the bag over in the other room because I just got back from overseas. But it is really, really good, man. I have to say.
Yep.
And when I saw it, when I watched Peter McKinnon's video, because I was like, oh, Peter McKinnon's excited about, because he hasn't been excited about newer cameras in a while. But when he was like hyped on this, I'm like, is he really just playing this up or is it really good? Then I got it from Canon a couple of days later, as Canon Singapore, and my God, this hits a lot of home runs. If you're looking for a really good pocket camera and you want a zoom lens, yeah.
Now, F and CCD asks the question of the ages: is it Nikon or Nikon? I believe that Nikon's formal response is it's fine to call it whatever it is in your region. Have you heard the same thing, Bobby?
I think it just depends. I mean, obviously Americans say Nikon. I've said it for years, and sometimes I go back to saying it that way because I've been saying it for 40 plus years. But the correct way is Nikon from Japan. If you say it in the Japanese way, but I think they're fine with it. Like people see, like you say Z, right? It's Z, not Z, but we allow you Australians and British to get away with it, and Canadians.
And the Canadians. The Canadians say Z as well.
We feel bad for you, but but we feel bad. But it's actually Z6III, ZF, Z52,
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M. I won't go on because that'll be boring, and I'll sing a different song. Damn it, I can hear my echo in my ear. That's a bit crazy. Any QQQs in the comments? Hit us up with those QQQs. Now's the time, because I tell you, both Bobby and I are going to turn into pumpkins soon. What's Z-Wade saying here? Yes, all correct. Mosman, no. Very good. Any more questions in the... Now, Bobby, is there any... As we hit the 1 hour mark or so... Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about from this week? Anything that excited to you?
I mean, right now, it's just been like every week has been bam, bam, bam. So much content, so much products coming out there. It's been really, I mean, I'm okay with a couple of weeks break, man, to be frank with you. I'm okay with a couple of weeks break. Man, it's been a lot. Overall, I mean, I've just been really, I mean, this year is going to be a great year for cameras and great year for lenses. I mean, there's stuff that's coming out that we can't talk about yet that I think is really going to impress people a lot along the way. And, I think by the end of the year, we're going to look back at 2025 saying, this has been a very formidable year for photography and videography as well. And we're going to have a lot of great options at a really good pricing. It's going to change some of the dynamics in this marketplace. We're starting to see it right now. And I think by year end, we're going to see a big shift going on where we're going to go, okay, brands that we weren't thinking about, we are now looking at very seriously, and yeah, vice versa. Yeah.
Roger Manning is asking, is there any chance that we will get guests? And the answer is absolutely yes. I think the biggest problem for me, I can't speak for Bobby, is that each week just flies through so fast, and there is so much going on in our lives, not only in our YouTube lives, but the rest of our lives. But I've certainly got a few people in mind that I'd like to bring to the channel, and Bobby, I won't speak for you, but perhaps Bobby has some people he would like to talk to as well. But yeah, no, we certainly want to, and I suppose it would be interesting to me to hear from you. Is it, what sort of people are you interested in? Other photographers, other people just in the industry, ambassadors, people specifically from the companies? I'm not sure how many people would come on specifically from Sony, Nikon, or Fuji. Yeah. Do you think that would happen, Bobby? Do you think the actual representatives of companies would come on?
I mean, it depends. It depends. I mean, we'd love to have that happen someday. You never know. Or we might have to pre-record that just for, obviously languages and language issue. Obviously, because if you're dealing with these companies and maybe they're, let's say, from Japan, maybe English isn't their first language. And so you want to be respectful to that as well, to make sure that they're put in the best light. And I always think about that too. I mean, we take for granted that we all speak English here, but for many in our part of the world, it's not their first language. And I would love to speak to somebody from Nikon about, product and their insights and things like that from Nikon Japan. But I obviously know it's, we would have to pre-record that, I feel.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Absolutely right. VJ is asking, chances of a Z7 III with a red high-speed, high dynamic range sensor. So right now, the sensor that's in the Raptor, I think, is expensive because that camera is very expensive. It's something like 35,000 USD. It's an expensive camera. So from my perspective, it's all about the advancement of technology, and as technology, gets easier to make, it gets cheaper. So yeah, look, that might happen one day. I wouldn't expect it in the kind of timeline that we're expecting for a Z7 III. In other words, I think people would like to see a Z7 III in the next, now to 5 years. And can that sensor be brought down to that price in that period of time? I'd be surprised. And I think we'd be more likely to see it in, one of the Z9 sometime in the future. I think it's probably too expensive even for the next one, but who knows? Because there's a big difference between 35,000 USD and 5,000 USD, which is the difference between the Z9 and the Raptor. That is quite a massive price difference. And I reckon a lot of that is a sensor that nobody else has managed to make, which is this global, basically 35 mil, very high dynamic range sensor. Technology always gets cheaper. It'll come one day. What we have seen, of course, is what we talked about last week, which is that Komodo X global sensor, which clearly they're on top of that. And that'll be all about the yields. We've talked about the yields earlier in this episode, and the yields of making a smaller sensor are potentially higher than making a larger sensor. And that's just part of what drives it. I mean, Sony managing to make global sensors for the A9 III. So, the technology just keeps improving. That's a physically larger sensor, but with a lower pixel density because it's 24 megapixels versus that higher one. And we can't forget that we get this gear in our hands and we get to use it and it works and it's working in the everyday world, but we're actually using cutting edge, bleeding edge technology. These companies are absolutely pushing technology to the limit, bringing us a Z8, a Z9, an A9 III, an R1. This is the best that technology can build and it not cost $50,000 or $100,000. And you know, for guys that have been in this industry a long time, I still get blown away by what we now pay for, you know, an A7C2 or a Z5II. That level of technology at these price points blows me away. And I never forget how privileged we are to be able to create such high quality outcomes at such affordable prices. And, you know, with both of those camera systems, you can mount lenses from the last 100 years, and you could have a great range of lenses for next to nothing if you wanted to go third-party adapted manual lenses. So we are living in the dream world, the absolute dream world. The comments are flying through. Who makes the red sensor? I don't know, Verhagen, who makes the red sensor. These things are kept very secret. So I'll do some research. I'll try and find out. But I tell you, I've been trying for a number of years to find out, and it's not easy.
I mean, it could be Sony, but it could be a proprietary sensor that is made just for red, or at the time made for red. And obviously they have the patent on it, where they, you know, the, not say patent per se, but they would have the exclusivity on that sensor, and they only make a certain amount. That's why the price is also very high. Like case in point, like phase 1 sensors are also made by Sony. And so are Fujifilm medium format sensors, and Hasselblad sensors are made by Sony. But they have their own criteria, their own demands, what they expect from a sensor, the quality of the sensor, all that comes into play. So, you know, Sony is the largest sensor manufacturer. Canon makes their own sensors, but I don't know any other company right now that's doing their own. So yeah, if Red was making their own, then Nikon now owns that. So,
well, Mosman has commented, and this was going to be my only suggestion, because I've looked into sensors before, that so there's a company called Tower Jazz. I don't know. They're now called Tower Semiconductor.
Yeah.
And they have made sensors for Nikon in the past, and they've also publicly, you can see it in their marketing materials, made sensors for Red in the past. And then and Mosman points out they're only 8 miles away from their HQs, are only 8 miles apart. So there you go. That may or may not be serendipitous. It may or may not be deliberate that they're so close. But it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting. Very interesting. And I think they made it for Panasonic, if I'm not mistaken, as well, for the original S line of cameras, the S1R, S1, S1H. If I'm not mistaken,
Tower Jazz.
I think those were Tower Jazz. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So there's a few players out there, and when I was when I visited Nikon HQ 18 months ago, just before I met you, Bobby, actually, I really did it for that video. I really did a super deep dive into all the semiconductor fabrication facilities in the world and people who make sensors and so on. There are a lot. There's like, I can't remember the number, somewhere between 50 and 100, and it's most of them we just don't know about and we don't talk about, because there's an enormous amount of sensors being made for security cameras and for cars and for all sorts of uses. You know, I think Samsung is still in the game. I think I read it was Tesla who's now moving over to back to Samsung, and Apple announced about 18 months ago that they will be developing their own sensors and creating their own sensors in-house. So, you know, it's a constantly moving environment, and I think when anybody has a monopoly, it's an opportunity for, or a sort of a monopoly, it's an opportunity for them not to have a monopoly, if that makes sense. Everybody else wants to come in and get in on the action.
True.
Now, do we have any more QQQs before we wrap up this beautiful discussion? Mosman says, I think Tower... yeah, right, okay. Vahography was suggesting that they should go visit Tower Jazz with cameras rolling, and Moz is saying they might be secure. That's fair enough. All right, everybody. Well, I don't know where that 1 hour just went, Bobby. That went so fast. It's probably because I talk too much, but I suppose that's the name of the game when you're doing a live stream podcast, is you've just got to keep talking and say, hopefully, something useful. I can't thank everybody enough for being here today. Please do give us a like, and please do subscribe. Now, right now, we're alternating between our two channels, so next week, I think we're going to be on Bobby's channel, and so just see us there. And then, as you know, we're jumping between our channels and until further notice. And we have one more QQQ here from VJ.
Yep.
Which is, do you guys think DJI will enter the full-frame mirrorless market? They have the resources and experience to do. It's funny, I was having this conversation with somebody, I can't remember who it was. Was it Bobby? Was it Joe? Was it somebody? I can't remember who it was. Somebody, and it was like, or was it us? Like 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they should, and I think if anybody could invent things that we haven't thought of, because they make beautiful cameras like the Ronin 4D, which is just like, to me, that's my dream camera, is to have a sort of...
Which is on sale now.
When I'm
It's on
shooting
sale.
video, not shooting stills.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bobby?
It's on sale now. They just dropped the price massively on that camera. They just dropped
Oh.
it big time. Yes.
Interesting. I better go check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think DJI, they clearly make amazing, microphones. They make the pocket cams. They make the action cams. They make drones. They know a lot about cameras. They know a lot about compression. They know a lot about heat and keeping things small. They are fantastic at industrial design. Like, they make beautiful products. So yes, I would love to see that happen.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe all the camera companies wouldn't, but hey, we don't work for the camera companies, do we, Bobby?
No, we don't. We don't. Not yet. Anyway.
No.
All right, Matt.
Oh, I see. There we go. Not yet. Anyway, all right, everybody. Well, thank you. As we hit the 1 hour, 10-minute mark, it's been absolutely fantastic to have everybody here. We will see you next week. Please like and subscribe. Thank you, Bobby. It's been wonderful to have you here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'll throw it over to you, Bobby.
With that, guys, take care. Have a great weekend, and we'll chat to you next week. Same time, same place, different bat channel, but we'll see you. All right.
Bye.